Hey, Dom, great to see you. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so when you look back on your career, do you have moments of frustration or are you just going, hey, you know what? I had a good career, drafted 20th overall, never knew if I was going to make it. I get there, I'm an all-star. Like, how do you look and view your career when you look back, especially for a guy drafted 20th in the 20th round?
Right. Even drafting in the 20th round, my goal was to be the best player in baseball. So for me, also getting that 10-year mark for us as big leaguers is the golden rule. I didn't get that as well. But I take that same inspiration and fire that I had every day in the clubhouse to my everyday life now, and it inspired me to want to give the same passion, same energy to the youth.
Yeah, and so
So,
are you at peace with that? Okay, not hitting that 10-year mark and everything else. And are you at peace for where you're at as you're now helping others?
oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, I'm definitely at peace. If I wouldn't have been, I definitely would have been still trying to play, which I feel like that I still can do. I don't think that I can play 162, but but I would still be chasing that dream. No, I got a real passion when it comes to teaching and giving this information that I got from a lot of great baseball people, great baseball minds. I'm ready to give that passion back to the youth. It's been 3 or 4 years now, man, and it's been unbelievable, man. I'm at the Phillies games all the time. I'm more of a fan now than anything. I love our squad. I think we're gonna be back in the playoffs this year. Got a good mix of veteran guys plus the young guys. We got the trade deadline coming up right now as well. Um, but yeah, man, I'm at peace. I'm happy, man. I'm a family guy now. I had to go through some bumps and bruises. Had to mature up a little bit. Um, Start staying in the house a little bit more. You know what I mean?
I know what you
Got a
mean.
ring on my finger the last 6 years. So for me, like I said, it's taking that passion that I have for the love of the game and giving that to the youth. I still got that itch every now and then, but when I'm feeling that way, I'm giving that energy to the kids each and every day, and I'm just as passionate as ever. But for me, the biggest thing that I miss is I miss the media playing in Philly. I know it sounds crazy,
That
but I
does
do.
that does sound crazy. That
I,
does sound.
I, I, I do, man. I got a custom of feeling that energy every single day. I think that was a little bit of struggle going to AAA in Buffalo the first year from Philly. You go from 40,000 fans and then our media and our fan base to 5K at best. And it took me a while to get up, man. And in Philly, you don't need no Red Bull. You don't need no pre-workout. I mean, you feel the energy of the crowd from 5:30 once those gates get open, till it's game time. And that's what I miss the most is just being around the guys. Every so often I'll pick up the phone, call Jimmy Howard and the boys, Mayberry, all those guys. That's what I miss the most is just being around the guys that we had when we were really rolling.
Yeah, and when you were really rolling specifically, you have that all-star season.
Right,
There has to be so much pressure on you, and everyone's looking at you like you're the top prospect in the Phillies organization, one of the top
right.
prospects in baseball. Everything's going your way. You're killing the ball. Are you able to enjoy that moment? Or, I talked to so many guys over the years that they're just like, hey, I'm just locked in. I'm not
Right,
able to enjoy it because it's work. And
right.
it's for everyone else to enjoy, but for me, it's work, and it's so much work to hit that baseball. Were you able to enjoy that run there, or were you not able to enjoy it?
Yeah, I was able to enjoy that run, man. I had Wally Joyner in my back pocket. Him and Steve Henderson. I always tell people Steve Henderson was the biggest motivator out of the crew. And then I had Wally, who had 20 years in the big leagues, that was able to let me ease up a little bit instead of trying to hit after the game and continuing to keep feeling that same feel. Go home, dude, enjoy it, have some fun, and I did. I think the biggest thing for me was those next couple of years, health number one, but number two, putting a lot more pressure on myself. Not seeing Jimmy and a couple of other guys that we had in the clubhouse We got a couple guys that was in the mix, great dudes. But I felt like, and I could be wrong here, I felt like that we got some guys that wasn't Philly guys. And that part was a little bit different. And for me, I was used to picking up the phone or seeing Jimmy each and every day. Chase left in 15 as well. It was just a different clubhouse, and it was my time to do my thing, and I didn't. You know what I mean? Like I said before earlier, that part of it. I look back at it, and I played my heart out. I battled every single night, and I can sleep at night because of that. And I'm not afraid to go there and talk to anybody, especially the kids and the youth. That's one of the biggest things that I talk to them about is being able to battle through that adversity. And I feel like that I did, whether, I hit 230 or 275 my All-Star game year. I enjoyed every minute of the big leagues.
Yeah, it is a weird thing when you take a step back and think about professional sports. It's a weird thing. Like everyone knows the money you're making. People are criticizing you on the radio or at the games or booing you and things like that or cheering for you. It's really the only profession that's talked about in that way where everyone knows your money, everyone knows your business. Actors aren't booed at work. They're not booed on the set.
Right.
And if they mess up, they can do another take, right? And so it is this weird profession of, you ever take a step back and go, just look at the absurdity of it. Like, hey, I'm walking into onto a field here in a visiting town, and I'm getting booed or even booed by my
visiting town. What, Jeff? What you talking about, man?
All right, so
playing in Philly, man. If you could play here, you could play anywhere. The fans are great. Just like I was saying earlier, you don't need no free workout, no energy, and all this stuff. You're ready to go. And then you go to Arizona or something like that, and you wishing that you're at home because these guys are making sure that you're accountable. And that's why I moved back. I tried Atlanta for all season. Florida, I grew up there as well, tried it. My parents was like, dude, if you want to do this youth thing, man, and you want to bypass the line, you got to get your butt back up to Philly. And I was scared to death, man, because I didn't know how the fans were going to take me in. I didn't know any of that. But I do know that I'm a risk taker, man. And I know that, once I got here and I seen the love and energy in the communities, I start reaching out to the local little leagues, just trying to find some good people around, man. And I found a home here in Philadelphia, King of Prussia area, Montgomery County. The love and support that Domonic Brown has gotten, and my family as well. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Tell me, you're the coach or the owner. Like, explain what's going on here. So it's the Tri-State Arsenal DB9. Mm-hmm. Is it a league? Is it a team? Tell me what's going on.
So I have 8 teams of my own based through Tri-State Arsenal. There's roughly 25 teams in total. We're in the Montgomery County area. Let's see, how many players? 100 and some odd players of my own. Like I said, I teamed up with a lot of guys with the local little leagues and start branching out and really connecting with the parents and the players and getting some coaches. Philip Cuevas is the vice president of Tri-State Arsenal. Lindy Castillo, guys that are former Phillies. And we have probably about 6 or 7 ex-pro guys. I'm just trying to give that, like I said earlier, I'm trying to give that passion and energy back to the youth and trying to do things the right way and show this youth, how things are supposed to be done. Because these guys are smarter than us, Jeff. They got the Rapsodos and these $30,000 machines to, help your swing, which is phenomenal because for us, it was all on field. Now it's about what's real and what's field. These guys could take 5, 6 swings and data's going to tell them stuff that we had to feel ourselves in spring training with 200-300 swings a day. So it's phenomenal.
And sorry to cut you off. How old are these kids? And are they just playing in the league against each other, or are they playing outside leagues?
Not at all. So they're playing outside leagues. We have a spring, summer season that roughly is 5 to 10 tournaments, depending on what age group and if you're national caliber. If you're national caliber, you playing 7 to 10, maybe even more than that tournaments, going down to Florida, Georgia a couple times. And then in the fall, we roughly slow it down a little bit just because you got guys that are playing other sports, which I preach, and you're playing 4 to 6 tournaments, and the age groups are 8, 9 to 17.
Yeah. And so what was the best piece of advice you got during your playing days? Was it from Charlie Manuel, Mike Schmidt, or whoever it was, and that you pass on now to these kids?
Man, Ryan and a couple other guys would always say use every level like it's your big league. And that's something that I talk to the kids about. They're so anxious to get to college and maybe to get the pro level or whatever, but you got to enjoy every moment. And if you're trying your best to understand that 12-year-old baseball is what you need to focus in on right now and focus in on yourself, that's the best way to do it. And also building the relationships. If I could take anything back from playing now and go back over and do it again, I'll take the ball out of Scott Boris's hand a little bit more. And what I mean by that is the guys with Nike, Rollins, some of the other guys that I had. I would build more relationships in that particular area because that's what life is all about. You know what I mean? I got some very close, powerful people that's around me in my eyes. But if I can go back on it, I'll really latch on to a couple others.
Why do you specifically say you would like to take it out of Scott Boris's hands? I mean, he's one of the most powerful agents in the game and has gotten record deals for players and things like that.
Right. Just for me, man, I know for me, I'm a relationships guy, and most of these kids are. Not saying that he shouldn't go over the contracts and all that stuff. They do a brilliant job with that. But like I said, when you're dealing with Nike and you're 20, 21, 22 years old, you're not thinking about the relationships. You're thinking about the spikes. You're thinking about the batting gloves. You're thinking about the bats. You're thinking about all these things. And for me, it's literally, but it's literally all about the relationships that's in hand. I think I did a really good job with that when it comes to the media with Jim and a couple of the other guys that was around every day. But like I said, if I can do it all over again, that's what I'll be doing because you got family, you got friends, you got your kids that are coming up behind you, man, and you just never know who you're gonna latch on with. That comment, from Nick and Jim the other night. That's one thing that I was thinking about for Nick was in Philly, man, you got to answer them questions, man.
Yeah, but
when we talk about.
Yeah, you're talking about Nick Castellanos saying, "Hey, it was asked about, did you hear the boos?" The other night in Philadelphia, he was asked by a reporter, and he said that's a dumb question. And look, to be honest with you, look, my job has been a sportscaster reporter all the time, and so have I asked a question that has come out wrong or has come out and a player gets upset? Of course, and it's not always meant that way to grab. Sometimes you're just like you, maybe you have a bad day at the plate. And so,
of course,
but to me, to be fair, I always think about it like this. Imagine if I have a bad show, a bad day on the set, I come off and there's 10 guys around my desk asking me about my confidence, asking me about my contract, asking me, hey, am I getting along with my producer? Am I getting, are you focused? Or you're going to have a moment. We're all human beings. And so,
of course,
I get, Castellanos, I don't think was out of control. He was just like,
nah, he wasn't out of control. He wasn't out of control at all. What I'm saying is you always look at it in 3 ways: yourself, the media, the fans. All right, to cover all 3. Like I might have not have hit 300 every year, but to cover all 3, I have to, if I want my message to be across, I got to make sure that I'm speaking up. And there's no offense to Nick. He was having a day and he didn't handle it bad. But for me, like I said, if I can go and do it all over again, I'm thinking about those 3 things. And if you speak out, Jeff, if you speak out, now Jim can write that. He's going to write it anyway. Right? You're going to write it anyway. So if I speak out on what I want to speak out on, no matter what it is, then now I can cover all those 3 bases and everything. And it goes right back to what I was saying earlier about the relationships. If I got Domonic Brown Jr. or if I got, a cousin, uncle, whoever it is coming up behind me, I'm always thinking about those three so that I can cover everything for the guys that are coming behind me. And that's something that I take into, like I said, everyday life. And that's also why those guys are getting paid the big bucks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I hate saying it like that, but that's just the truth. Playing in Philly, that's I like what Alex did earlier, right? He had a couple errors and he spoke out on it, and the fans got right behind his back. And it was truly awesome, awesome, awesome to see.
Yeah, and look, it's hard. It's every day, and people don't realize how hard it is. And I remember sitting in spring training one time, sitting next to Charlie Manuel on the bench, watching you take batting practice in Clearwater at the Philly spring training complex. And I remember just having a casual conversation, completely not on camera, not per se on the record, but just talking about you. And Charlie made a great point. He goes, people don't understand how hard it is. They look at like Raul Ibanez, and people just, he's like, Charlie's point was people just look at him as like just some guy, but people don't
Right,
realize how hard it is to be an everyday player for a decade or more. And I asked him
right,
specifically about you. I go, Charlie, what about Dom? Like, he looks like he has all the tools. And he's like, he has it all. It's just about consistency. And it's
right.
so hard. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, were those conversations that you would have with Charlie and others in the Phillies organization, or even the Blue Jays or the Rockies organization, just about, for you, was it just about consistency, or was there something else? I mean, there's lowering hands, raising hands, and different things.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree with Charlie. Obviously, he's a big mentor of mine. But at the same time, for me, after I got sent down the last time, I said, "Is it talent? No. Is it hard work? Nah. You work your butt off." And I went back down to the education piece when it came to the physical swing. When I get the heel strike and when I get to my launch position when my foot strikes, where am I? Where's my hands? Where are all these things? And for me, I would work hard, but at the same time, I didn't know that much when it came down to the angles and the degrees and what to do, what to feel with my back hip. And I'm not afraid to say that because I went into the lab and I used social media and all these hidden gurus and all this stuff. And I wanted to learn, man. And my last couple of years of playing, man, I had some really good years, no matter where it was at. I played well, stayed healthy for the most part, man. And I seen that, like you just said, it all boils down to being consistent. But you got to get to the root of it, man.
Right.
Like Dom had to get to the root of it because my first year in AAA, dude, I hit a 250. Like before that, I don't know if I hit under 300, in AAA. And I felt like that was in my sleep. No offense to anybody, but going down there and struggling, in my last couple of years struggling in the big leagues, man, I said, you know what, enough of this, enough of that. Let's get to the root of it. Let's figure out what it is. We know that you know that you work hard. You know that you got the talent. What else is it? And that's what I had to do specifically for Domonic Brown, and that's the only reason why I'm able to go out every day. I'll be at the Phillies game tonight, man. Just trying to chop it up with the fans because I know that I'm at peace when it comes to it, man. I love the game of baseball. And Charlie and those guys would always tell me the game don't owe you anything. You know what I mean? All you can do is work hard, prepare. And like I said, for Dom, it was literally on the education part, man. I couldn't, I got stuck on my backside the last couple of years and really pool happy. Obviously, that happens to a few of us being in Philly. Tried to work my way back out to the outside pitch, but I just couldn't get back to my strength. And when I got called up, man, I was a gap to gap guy, left center field, and then they start busting me in, man. Jimmy talked to me about the toe tap. I cleaned up a lot of spots when it came to my swing, staying tight, not being long, able to get closer to the plate. And then now they make the adjustment back out to the outside pitch and a couple more breaking balls. Um, and Dom was still sitting on right center field to the right field line.
Right.
And like I said, I had to figure out how do I get back to these basics. And I end up doing that, man. And like I said, I ended my career well in my eyes. Didn't get my 10. But again, that's why I take the same passion, energy, and things that I learned at 30, 25, 26, 28. Now I'm able to give the kids that are 8, 9, 10, 11. And that's truly special to me.
Yeah, I remember there was a time, and I'm sure you don't even remember this, but there was a time toward the end you were injured a lot, and I think you were down in Lehigh
Mm-hmm.
Valley. You were in AAA, I think on a rehab assignment. And
Right.
that night, you were doing a rehab assignment, and I believe you found out that night that hey, you're going to be activated, but you're going to stay in AAA. I think this is the
Right.
story. And so
Right.
I ran into you in a restaurant like after a game. I was up in Lehigh Valley. A friend of mine was a minor league pitcher, and I went to watch him play with my
Mm-hmm.
wife and friends. And I passed by you in a booth. You were sitting in a booth. I don't know if it was your wife or girlfriend and your kid. And I just saw the
Mm-hmm.
look. I saw the look on your face of just like, like deflated, like obviously that disappointment. And in baseball, it's a
Right.
game of disappointment. How low did it get for you, when you got to that point of like going, all right, like this stinks. I mean, there had to be obviously moments where you're like, you got to be kidding me. And you're like pounding
Right.
the table.
No, I agree. At that particular time, I think Ruben had came in town as well. Man, those I tip my hat, man, because I definitely was stubborn, and I think that's what made me a pretty good player as well. But they kept it honest with me. Charlie was down there at times as well. But that time was dark for me, man. If I could say at any, I didn't want to be in AAA. I didn't really understand the importance of it. Now looking back on it, it was the best thing, man. You got your butt ate up in the big leagues. I wasn't ready at that point. And deep down inside, I knew it. I wanted to compete. But at the same time, they made the best decision for Domonic Brown
Yeah.
because it really lit a fire in my butt, and I wasn't able to find what I needed to find right away. But that process and that journey, it was low for me, man. That was one of the toughest times, but one of the best times because I had to get in the lab and realize that all right, you can't swing your way out of this. You can't throw 100 miles per hour your way out of this. You can't run, and that for me was like, all right, like I need to start doing more research, more homework on myself and figuring this thing out, and that's what I did. So I tip my cap to the Philly system as a whole, for always getting behind me, man. I mean, I know guys from the grounds crew all the way to from Gulf Coast League all the way up, and it's truly remarkable the way that the Phillies handled myself. And they do the same thing with all the guys.
Yeah. I remember walking by you at this restaurant in Lehigh Valley after a game. I could just see the look on your face. And I just was like, hey, quick, hi. You said hi. And then I just
Right.
kept, cause I could just see it on your face. And I'm like, man, like people just, not that anyone feels bad for professional athletes by any means, but you got to realize like they're human beings. They have feelings. They want to be successful. Sometimes it's just not clicking. And so when you're at that moment, when you're at the moment where things aren't going well, who helps you talks you off the ledge in a sense? Who steers you, or is it all internal? Like who helps you in those
Nah,
moments?
man, and that's why I said earlier the relationships, Jeff. With you building relationships, my wife, you know what I mean. The kids help out a lot, but I ain't gonna lie to you, man. It's your teammates.
Yeah.
Mayberry Jr., Revere, your Jimmys. Your teammates are seeing you from 2 to 11, 11:30 every day. They can get you out of that, But like I said, if Don was a little bit more homey at those times, Mayberry or whoever else probably would have said, hey, but I'm seeing that, that, and that. I'm seeing you, turn your top hand over. I'm seeing you stuck on your backside. Look like you really pull happy. But, I didn't want to hear that from everybody at that time. Charlie could talk to me about those things, but even for him, I could see that he didn't even want to talk to me at those times just because he didn't know where I was at mentally. But if Dom speaks up, now, like I said, I'm speaking up and I'm telling you, hey Jeff, I got this going on because I know that you can help me get out of that rut. And now, like you said, it might not be 2 months of it, maybe it's a couple weeks, and you're right out of that. So I think, like I said earlier, the relationships, your teammates, they're very, very important. Some of your old coaches, like I said, Steve Henderson and your Wally Joiners. I mean, I built a fantastic relationship with Wally. And then we had him for 1 year, and then he went with the Tigers. But we always kept in touch. You know, those are the guys that are, you know, your parents. Those are the guys that are able to get you out of that rut, and that's what
Yeah,
happened.
no, it's so hard. And you don't think about just how hard it is and everything that has to go right to hit a baseball. And by the way, it still goes wrong, 7 out of 10 times if you're
Yes,
lucky.
sir.
And some guys are able to, I remember like Chase Utley would get to the ballpark at like 12:30 and watch tape and
Mm-hmm.
do all this work just to get on the field every single day. And it's 162 games. And there's other
Right.
guys where it's like information overload. And that's just the human element of it. Like how much sometimes you want to clear, you're getting that batter's box, you want to clear your mind. You don't want all this
Right.
stuff in the batter's box as you're facing,
Those guys. Hey, we like again though. That's it's difficult, but we're able to do that. I never felt like in game like I was really stressed out. It was before, it was
yeah.
after. Like
Okay.
when you in game, man, I'm competing. My heart's bigger than yours. I don't care what's going on. And I seen that from Chase and Jimmy and Howard and Chooch and all these guys, Doc and your Cliff Lees. We had those guys, man. And that made my day so much better because I seen those guys in the rut. I seen Mike Trout in the rut this year, started 0 for 22 or whatever. I'm watching Jeff because I want to see what this guy's gonna do, and he gets right out of it, man. And that's what the great ones do. That's what I did at times. But that's when Charlie Manuel was watching.
Yeah. And
That's when those guys are watching to see what you're gonna do. Are you gonna act a fool? You gonna break bats? You gonna do all this stuff, or you gonna keep it professional? And that's something that I always try to do is just keep it professional because you never know who's watching you at those times, especially your
right.
teammates.
Right. And so when you step into the box and you do have a moment where you're able to just look at the moment, who is the most lethal pitcher you have faced in your career?
Jose Fernandez. Fernandez, I mean, 98, sometimes sink, sometimes cut. I don't think that he knew what he was doing at times. He was just gifted. Hammer, Strasburg, when he first got called up, I'm just talking about guys of my era. Man, the list goes on. The Grum, I mean, they're nasty of the nastiest around the whole MLB. Man, the average fastball when I was getting called up, what 91, maybe 92. Now it's
Right.
95, 96. But it's a lot of nasty guys out there. Um, but man, I love watching those guys as well, man. You can't take any credit away from them. Sometimes they just beat you, even though in your heart you never feel that way.
So when you watch now and you pay close attention to Major League Baseball, who would you say is the greatest player right now this generation?
Mike Trout,
Easy, right?
yeah, it's easy. Like I love Harper. I love what he brings to the table. Um, but when you're talking about numbers, you gotta go with Mike Trout. I always want to pick a lefty, so I'll say Harper, next. But that's just me being biased for Philly. But definitely Mike Trout. Albert Pujols has done an amazing job. Freddie Freeman. You got a lot of guys around the league that are real special guys, man. That's making it happen every single day. But I gotta tip my hat to old Mike Trout.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And you talk about Bryce Harper. I mean, he's a guy, he just seems like he personifies Philadelphia. He plays just, all emotion. You love his
Man, it's
passion.
all Philly. Harper is all Philly, man. It's the same things that I've seen from Chase Utley day in and day out. He's not trying to do it. It's just him. It's just him, man. That Philly is all over him, dude. It's tatted all over him, and it's very special to be here in Philly to be able to watch Bryce Harper. And I mean, I came up around the same time, so for me saying that is pretty dang good. But I love watching a guy. He's a special talent. Guy works his butt off, man, and he's been consistent as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that Harper